Yo, what's up guys? Today I wanted to make a video on Jade Empire. This game is one of my favorites growing up. Had a big impact on me. Game is super underrated, super underappreciated. Not enough people are talking about it. Hopefully after watching this you guys will want to go out and play it. So enjoy the video. So Jade Empire was an action-adventure RPG that was developed by BioWare. You may have heard of them. They developed games like Knights of the Old Republic and the Mass Effect trilogy. The game came out in 2005 on the original Xbox, which is what I played it on, and a few years later it dropped on the PC, and that's the gameplay you're seeing today. The reason I wanted to make a video on Jade Empire is because I think this game has subconsciously had a huge impact on the type of games I prefer to play. I remember getting this game when I was around 11 years old and playing through it for the first time, and just being blown away by the story, the characters, the morality system, the world, the martial arts, and the soundtrack. And thinking back now, even though I didn't know it at the time, I feel like I judged every game I played afterwards based on how it compared to Jade Empire. And it's my opinion that a lot of the elements incorporated into Jade Empire inspired a lot of the RPGs that followed its release. So I want to start with the story of Jade Empire, which I think is actually pretty underrated. So it follows you as you take on the role of an orphan who is saved and raised by a mysterious martial arts teacher by the name of Master Li after your home is raided and your people are slaughtered by the Emperor in his search for an ancient power. When the game starts, Li reveals you're something called a spirit monk, and that he's been training you all these years to prepare you for your destiny, which is bound to affect the whole world. He tells you you have to complete a dangerous trial to learn more about what being a spirit monk means and how it will affect your destiny. Afterwards, a few more events unfold to progress the story forward, but I won't spoil those because I think it gets a lot more interesting. Moving on to the gameplay of Jade Empire, it's surprisingly fun and engaging for an RPG that's almost 20 years old. To me, the combat was ahead of its time. It was unique, it was fast, it was fluid, and it was easy to control right away. It felt more like an action game compared to other traditional RPGs that have more of a turn-based combat system, which I can't stand. Jade Empire's combat system was more of a real-time combat, so you can control your character's movements and attacks seamlessly. The combat itself is heavily inspired by Chinese martial arts, gives you a great variety of styles to choose from. Players have access to 5 different combat categories, including a primary attack, a secondary disabling attack, a weapons attack, a magic attack, and a transformation attack, all of which can be switched between seamlessly at the touch of a button and combined with each other to give you the best possible opportunity to defeat the variety of enemies that have a range of weaknesses and resistances to overcome to give the player a good challenge that keeps you engaged but never becomes a grind. The game also incorporates a focus system which allows the player to slow down time and deliver powerful, precise strikes that can be really useful in more difficult battles. So now I want to talk about the world, the characters, and the morality system of Jade Empire. They were a big part of what I thought made the game shine and what I think inspired so many other RPGs. Like most RPGs, your dialogue choices have a huge impact on the way the story unfolds and how the characters in the world interact with you. So starting off with the world itself, I want to mention how BioWare created something so unique and visually stunning that's filled with rich mythology, a lot of lore that left me with a sense of immersion and wonder that up until playing Jade Empire, I'd never experienced before. Throughout the game, you'll travel to several different regions, each one more uniquely beautiful than the other. Every single character that you interact with throughout the game is diverse, engaging, and interesting. They all have distinct and quirky personalities with their own motivations and backstories. It really makes it feel like the world is alive. And like I said, the relationships you build with those characters is greatly going to affect how the story plays out. And you can see how that clearly inspired games like Mass Effect, where the relationship with your followers is a crucial part of getting the best endings possible for your playthrough. So with all that said, that brings me to the morality system of Jade Empire, which in my opinion is top tier even by today's standards. And again, it's emulated across RPGs to this day. So there's a spectrum of good and evil you can fall into in the game, the good being the way of the open palm, the bad being the way of the closed fist, and then there's a neutral path you can fall into that's somewhere in between both of those. Now, although that sounds pretty standard, what made it original and stand out from other RPGs at the time of its release was that the outcomes of your choices wasn't immediately apparent. So a decision that may initially feel good might actually have unintended negative consequences, and that was a whole new mechanic that I'd never seen before. It really made you feel like your choices mattered, and it made those choices difficult to make. It presented a complex and nuanced view of morality that was inspired by Chinese mythology and philosophy that distinguished it from more traditional Western RPG elements. Now, something that I think really tied all of this together to make it a truly impactful game was the soundtrack, believe it or not. The soundtrack for Jade Empire was unbelievable. It was original, it was catchy, it was something I'd never heard before, and it evoked emotion out of me that kept me engaged with the story and characters throughout the world. It's one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. And on top of that, the in-game background music and sounds are perfectly in tune with the world BioWare built. I think what made it so uniquely different was the combination of ancient Chinese instruments with the more traditional Western orchestral instruments. It really created one of the most immersive atmospheres and complements the game's settings and themes so well. Now, I know it's easy to take all these gameplay mechanics for granted since almost every game today does all these things and does them really well, but I think what people need to realize is that a lot of today's games took inspiration in one form or another from this game. Before Jade Empire, I had never played a game that story and characters would be so affected by my choices. It pulled you in and it made you emotionally invested in the story and followers like nothing that had come before it. And after Jade Empire's release, you could see how that was incorporated into a lot of other games that followed it. I mean, just look at Mass Effect. Mass Effect is just Jade Empire in space. And if you know anything about the Mass Effect trilogy, you know how great those games are. And now you know where a lot of that came from. Just like Mass Effect, there's so much content packed into Jade Empire that it'll easily take you 30 to 40 hours to complete, and even still you may not have discovered everything there is to find. All the side missions and characters are memorable, the voice acting is incredible, and the world building is outstanding. And for years, people including myself have been clamoring for a sequel, but to be honest, it doesn't seem likely. At this point, I'd settle for a remaster like BioWare did with Mass Effect. Maybe if that sold well enough, they'd consider looking at a sequel eventually. I know this was a quick video, but I just wanted to hit the highlights, but just know that I've barely scratched the surface of what Jade Empire has to offer. It's my opinion that any fan of gaming, not just RPGs, will be blown away by this phenomenal experience. The game is available on Game Pass or EA Play, so do yourself a favor and go check out Jade Empire and find out what you've been missing out on. Before you leave, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I appreciate any support and feedback, so let me know what you think. And if you've played Jade Empire before, drop a comment down below about how the game has impacted you. I look forward to reading them. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.